It was late on a peaceful Sunday evening, and I found myself in an unexpected circumstance with my stepmother. The day began as usual, with neither of us anticipating what would occur by nightfall. I never expected to be in such close quarters with her. Let me backtrack and introduce myself first. My name is James, and I'm 18. Ever since my mom married, it's been just my stepmom and me at home for most of the week, with Dad often working out of town. That evening, we went downtown to pick up a few items, and as we were about to head back, we made a quick stop at the office building where she worked. It seemed harmless, but as soon as we entered the elevator, something unexpected occurred. I never imagined what would unfold when the elevator doors shut. We pressed the button for the ground floor, both of us lost in our thoughts, her staring at her phone and me zoning out after a long day. Then a sudden jerk broke the silence, and the lights flickered before going completely dark. My heart skipped a beat, and I could hear her gasp as the elevator came to a halt between floors. In the faint emergency lighting, she glanced at me, slightly uneasy but trying to stay composed. I attempted to reassure her, though I was feeling a little uneasy myself. We were alone and no one knew where we were. She pulled out her phone to check for a signal, but there was nothing. In the dim, confined space, the air grew warmer as time passed. She let out a small sigh, leaning against the wall, her hand brushing lightly against her collarbone. She tried to calm herself, and I found myself watching her every subtle movement, her breathing slowing, amplified in the small space. A strange comfort settled over me as I watched. She spoke gently. "I didn't expect to be stuck here like this, especially not with you." There was a hint of humor mixed with vulnerability that caught me off guard. I managed a small smile in response. "I guess we'll have to make the most of this opportunity," I said. She gave me a look. With each passing minute, the air became heavier, and we both relaxed slightly in an attempt to stay comfortable in the rising warmth. She unbuttoned the top of her shirt, her fingers lingering on the collar as she sought some relief. I could feel my pulse quickening. Her eyes softened, and there was a moment of silent understanding between us. She reached out and gently touched my arm, reassuring me. The warmth of her touch lingered longer than I expected, and I turned my head away, trying to suppress the thoughts swirling in my mind. Her proximity and ease made it difficult to concentrate. She noticed my anxiety and laughed softly, easing the tension. Her tone was soothing. "It's just the two of us here, so there's no need to be so tense. Take a deep breath." I nodded, but my heart continued to race. The dim lighting added an unusual intimacy to the situation. After a while, she looked up at me with a steady, thoughtful gaze. "I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad I'm not alone," she said, smiling softly at me. Her hand rested on my arm, and I felt the weight of her touch, grounding me. I momentarily lost myself in the softness of her expression, amplifying every sound in the confined space. She leaned a little closer, her hand moving to my shoulder, and I felt my pulse quicken again. "You're very—" I started, swallowing, unsure of how to respond. I just tried to be myself. Her fingers traced gentle circles on my shoulder, and her gaze held mine with an intensity that left me breathless. "I know you do," she said quietly, her voice barely a whisper. "That's what I like about you." There was a brief silence, just enough for her words to settle, and then without another word, she leaned in a little closer. Her lips brushed mine lightly at first, cautiously, almost as if testing the waters. The contact sent waves of warmth through me, and before I knew it, I found myself responding, letting the moment take over. The kiss deepened into a soft, lingering exchange that spoke volumes. Her hand moved to my cheek, her thumb brushing against my skin in a way that made my heart race. I leaned into her touch, savoring each moment, as if time had slowed down just for us. The kiss deepened further, and the world around us seemed to disappear. All I could feel was the warmth of her body so close to mine, the softness of her lips, and the intoxicating scent of her hair. The confined space of the elevator became a sanctuary, isolating us from everything else, and I lost myself in the moment. Suddenly, she pulled back slightly, her eyes searching mine. There was a mix of excitement and uncertainty in her gaze. "Are you?" she asked, her breath shaky, mirroring my own. "Yeah, I'm okay," I replied, my voice barely a whisper. "More than okay." Her smile was radiant, like the sun breaking through the clouds. "I was worried you might think this is too much," she said, her voice filled with vulnerability. No, I want this, I replied, my voice firm. I really do. She leaned in again, our lips barely touching. I've wanted this for a long time, she confessed, and with that, the kiss resumed, this time more passionate, as if we were both trying to make up for lost time. My hands found their way to her waist, pulling her closer until I could feel the heat radiating from her body. The kiss turned deeper, a soft exploration as we both gave in to the flood of emotions. Her fingers tangled in my hair, and I felt her warmth surround me. After some time, she pulled away again, but the cramped elevator, with its enclosing walls, felt like a completely different world. Our heartbeats synchronized in a rhythm I couldn't resist. She laughed softly, making me feel lighter. I suppose it's just you and me now, huh? She said. Just us. Her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkled with mischief. Wow, she breathed. I didn't think being stuck in an elevator could feel like this. Neither did I confessed, unable to stop smiling. I glanced around the small room, suddenly struck by how intimate it felt, something I was grateful for. She took a deep breath, her eyes locking with mine. I contemplated the significance of this moment, unsure whether she shared my feelings. I've wanted to tell you for so long, but I didn't know how, I said, my voice steady. Neither did I, she replied. Despite the overwhelming reality of our situation, I couldn't suppress the excitement coursing through me. What if we don't go back? She whispered. I want to explore whatever this is. Me too, I replied, my gaze fixed on her. She smiled, and I leaned in again, our lips brushing as if electricity surged through the moment. I couldn't resist giving her a deeper kiss as we kissed again, losing ourselves in the moment. Each kiss felt like a promise, a step into unknown territory, and I didn't want to leave. I was excited to explore. I drew closer, yearning to feel every part of her, and she gently pulled back, her breath mingling with mine, creating a subtle tension in the air. What if someone finds us? She asked, her gaze nervously flicking to the lift doors. Let them, I said, chuckling. Right now, I don't care about anything except this moment. The sound of her laughter relaxed the tension, and I laughed as well. I leaned in to kiss her again, savoring the way she melted into me. We lost ourselves in the warmth and proximity of our connection as my hands slid down to her waist, pulling her closer. The kiss deepened, our breaths intertwining. The world outside the lift seemed to vanish as we kissed, and the thrill of possibly being caught only heightened the intensity of the moment. Eventually, we broke apart to catch our breath, and I pressed my forehead against hers, our breaths mingling in the small space. What if we don't want to stop? I asked, my heart racing with anticipation. She smiled, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Then she leaned in again, her lips meeting mine in a kiss so sweet and lingering it sent shivers down my spine. Her hands wandered to my chest, exploring the muscles beneath my shirt, and her touch ignited a warmth within me. I tangled my fingers in her hair, pulling her closer, as if she might vanish. The kiss, though gentle at first, grew more passionate, filled with all the pent-up emotions we'd held back. Time seemed to stretch as we continued, our kisses becoming more desperate and urgent, my body responding instinctively to the heat pooling in my core. I couldn't resist drawing her closer, intensifying the kiss as I caressed the curves of her back. As our kisses grew fiercer, the tension in the cramped lift grew thicker, and a wave of longing surged through me as I felt her body mold perfectly against mine. To make this last, she whispered against my lips, and I moved my hands to her hips, pulling her even closer, feeling her heartbeat synchronize with mine. As the minutes passed, the connection between us overshadowed everything else, the heat between us undeniable. Her breath was warm and inviting, and I responded in a voice filled with longing. We resumed kissing, losing ourselves in one another once again, each kiss sparking more passion as the chemistry between us intensified. I could feel the heat of her skin beneath her shirt as my fingers traced her back, sending shivers through her body. She responded eagerly, her breath quickening, and an overwhelming sense of desire swept over me. My heart raced as I lost myself in her, each kiss a promise of what was to come. The lift jolted, and we both froze for a moment. I glanced at the doors, wondering if something was wrong. She seemed a little uneasy, but I reassured her, pulling her back toward me. We can't let anything ruin this, I said, kissing her firmly. Nothing else mattered except the warmth of her body pressed against mine and the intoxicating closeness we shared. In a low, seductive voice, she suggested perhaps we should take things further. I once again lost myself in the taste of her lips, the feel of her body against mine, and her smile, which only fueled my desire. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued, and moved closer, feeling her breath against my ear. "What were you thinking?" I whispered. She murmured, "I think we should explore each other a little more." The thought sent a thrill through me, and I nodded slowly, feeling my senses heighten. She took my hand, leading it to her waist with a playful grin, encouraging me to explore further. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, and every touch sparked electric jolts through my body. My fingers traced the curve of her waist, feeling the softness of her body beneath my fingertips. "I completely agree," I murmured, losing myself in her warmth. The kiss deepened, becoming more intense than before, as her hands explored my chest, making me gasp when she touched me. I moved my hands lower, finding the collar of her shirt, pulling her closer, wanting to feel every inch of her. She gasped softly, and I paused, meeting her eyes for approval. She nodded, and I felt a surge of excitement. She exhaled, her eyes wide as my lips brushed over her skin. The sensation was electrifying, and I reveled in the way she responded. Her body arched toward me, inviting me closer. I could feel the heat radiating from her, drawing me in. She gasped again, her fingers tangling in my hair, urging me on. I felt a surge of confidence as I kissed my way down her abdomen, feeling her shiver beneath my touch. "God, this is incredible," she whispered, her voice full of delight. "You have no idea how long I've been anticipating this," I confessed, my heart racing as the intensity of the moment surrounded us like a dense fog, pulling us deeper into our own world. I pulled back just enough to meet her gaze. She admitted, with a shy smile, that she'd never felt anything like this before. "It's like a dream," she whispered. "I never want to wake up." Encouraged by her words, I leaned in again, capturing her lips with mine. This time, my hands roamed freely, exploring every curve and contour of her body as we kissed. My fingers traced the delicate lines of her waist and the soft fabric of her jeans, feeling the warmth radiating from her. The kisses grew deeper, more heated, as the air around us thickened with desire. The sound of our breaths echoed in the small lift, punctuating the silence that surrounded us like a comforting embrace. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, pulling back slightly to gauge her reaction. I wanted to make sure she felt as passionate about this moment as I did. "More than anything," she whispered, her eyes shining with determination. "I've never wanted something like this before." With renewed vigor, I kissed her again, and the taste of her lips was intoxicating, sparking a need within me that I never knew existed. I felt her body respond, her hands roaming over my shoulders and down my back, pulling me closer. I utterly lost all sense of time as the kisses grew more passionate with every touch. Sparks of energy surged through my body, kindling a fire I couldn't extinguish. "Let's not consider anything else for a moment," she whispered near my lips. My hands first traced the soft fabric of her blouse, then slid across her back, slipping underneath to feel the warmth of her skin. Her body trembled in response, releasing a muted sigh as I gently caressed her lower back. My pulse quickened with the sensation, and I felt immense pleasure in the way she reacted to every movement. Her voice, rough with desire, made me lose myself in her gaze. At that instant, her voice was husky with yearning. The world outside the elevator felt distant and irrelevant, with only our connection and undeniable chemistry mattering. She moaned softly, her eyes fluttering shut as I kissed her neck. My lips left gentle, lingering kisses along her collarbone, then continued down her neck. A surge of pride filled me as I saw her response, urging me on to fulfill my desires. "You make me feel incredible," I murmured, my voice shaking with hunger for her. Her fingers made me tremble as I whispered, getting a better look at her smooth skin when she tilted her head back, pulling me closer with her hair. I savored each moment, taking my time with every touch, as if it were our last. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice quivering. I was desperate to hear her answer, which came as a breathless yes. She took a deep breath, contemplating her decision, then said, "I want you. I want this." With her confirmation, I leaned in and gave her a fervent kiss. My hands explored her body with more assurance as I did so, preoccupied with the feel of her skin, lips, and the emotions swirling between us. The elevator lurched again, causing us to freeze, both of us exchanging worried glances. The thrill of the moment only drove me deeper as my fingers traced down her sides, enjoying the gentle curves beneath my palms. I felt her body press against me as if it were attempting to merge with mine, transforming into my very essence. "Is it possible someone will find us?" she asked, her breath quickening. I leaned in and kissed her again, my hands confidently exploring the contours of her body. The excitement of the risk heightened the pleasure. But I wasn't stopping now. A determined look crossed her face, and I mirrored her resolve. We kissed, our bodies firmly pressed together, the warmth radiating off us. Each kiss took us deeper into uncharted territory, and I eagerly wanted to explore more. I could feel her heartbeat against my chest, mirroring the intensity of the experience. "Let's just enjoy this," she said between kisses, her breath warm against my lips. "No matter what happens next, we'll deal with it later." As I continued exploring the warmth beneath her shirt, my hands roamed freely, gently lifting it to reveal her waist. She gasped faintly, and I whispered in awe, "You are absolutely stunning," my voice low and reverent. Her cheeks flushed, yet she responded with a mischievous grin. I leaned in for another kiss, savoring the richness of her lips as we sank into a rhythm that felt naturally electric. "You'll make me blush," I whispered, unable to help it. As I kissed her, I explored every inch of her body, memorizing the feel of her skin. The elevator shook again, momentarily halting my movements, and my heart raced. I wondered if it would all come to an end. Anxiety crept into my thoughts, but she inhaled deeply, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "Let's take this to the next level," she suggested. I didn't care about anything else at that moment. We clung to each other as if we were the only two people in the world. She pulled me back toward her, and our lips collided once more. I lost myself in her warmth, feeling the outside world slip away as we gave in to our desire. "Is it true you have faith in me?" I asked, feeling the pulse of my heart. She stepped back slightly, locking eyes with me. "More than anything," she responded. Then she leaned in again, her seductive voice matching the intensity of her kiss. Her hands roamed over my body, igniting a fire within me. The connection between us created an atmosphere charged with energy. Each touch, every kiss, made the world around us fade into oblivion. Her lips on my neck sent a rush of thrills through me that I would never forget. Each moment felt like a revelation, a step toward a reality we both longed for. "Are you sure?" I questioned, overcome with the intensity of it all. She responded with a look of determination, and I kissed her again, reaffirming the promise we had yet to make. As my hands slipped beneath her top, I savored the way she responded, her body arching toward mine, urging me to continue. My fingers caressed her side, and I kissed her neck, feeling her shudder beneath my touch. The elevator continued to sway, but we were so absorbed in our passion that we hardly noticed. Every kiss, every touch stoked the fire that consumed both of us, and I explored every inch of her body, completely losing myself in the moment. "Shall we have fun with this?" she asked, and I couldn't agree more. Here's the rewritten version of your text with synonymous words and phrases. I felt the surge of emotions overwhelm me as we surrendered ourselves entirely to the moment, creating our own world in the confined space of the elevator. She said, "I'm kissing you again," and I felt the rush of emotions flood me just as she did. Our lips became swollen and bruised as we kissed each other, and our breaths intermingled in the limited space. It was impossible for me to get enough of her, whether it was the taste of her lips, the sensation of her body against mine, or the softness of her skin. Every second felt like a promise, a step toward a deeper bond that was both captivating and unnerving. "What if we get stuck here for a long time?" I asked her. She answered with a playful smirk, her eyes glancing toward the doors. "What if we find ourselves trapped here for hours?" After a while, the elevator began to shake again, and I felt a sudden of anxiety. The intensity between us increased as I captured her lips for the second time. She leaned in with a mischievous gleam in her eyes, and I felt the heat between us grow stronger. "I have no doubt we'll find ways to keep each other entertained," I said. The exhilaration of the unknown stirred a surge of energy in me as I completely immersed myself in her embrace, escaping the outer world. As we drifted deeper into unconsciousness, our kisses became more intense, as if we wanted to consume each other. I could feel her heartbeat syncing with mine, reflecting the intensity of the moments we were sharing. "Can you imagine anyone hearing us?" she whispered, her words interrupted by her panting, a sly grin playing over her lips. The excitement of the moment gave me a bold confidence, and I pulled her closer, delighting in the connection we had created. As she smiled, her eyes sparkled with mischief, and I gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, signaling that I no longer cared about anything or anyone else. "Right?" I said. "Let's put on a show for everyone." She moved closer to me, her lips brushing against my ear, and with a playful glint in her eyes, she murmured something that sent a shiver down my spine. I couldn't help but smile as she did this, feeling the warmth of her breath spark a fire inside me. "Maybe we should just let the elevator carry us wherever it pleases," I suggested. I was overcome with excitement and proposed we stay where we were for a while. Her enthusiasm was contagious, and she smiled. "Whenever I'm with you, I don't care about anything else," she said. The world outside felt like a distant memory, and all that mattered was the sensation of her body against mine and the thrilling intimacy we had found. I knew in that moment how true her words were. After a while, I drew back slightly, gazing into her eyes, which were filled with excitement and anticipation. "What's the tone of your voice?" I asked. My curiosity piqued. Her voice was soft and inviting as she suggested we enjoy the moment with no expectations or pressure. As we settled into a rhythm, the elevator swayed gently, and our hands explored each other with a freedom we had never known before. With a grin, I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I leaned in for another kiss. "I can go along with that," I said. There was a lingering sense of unease, and we exchanged nervous glances. But instead of letting it overwhelm us, we both burst into laughter, and the joy made everything feel lighter. When we stepped out of the elevator, our hands were still intertwined, and she whispered in a light-hearted manner, nudging my shoulder. Through the sound of the elevator chime, the rush of cool air poured in, bringing us back to the present moment. "How about we go out for coffee sometime?" I asked. "Would you mind going somewhere a little less cramped?" My heart was racing, and she flashed a mischievous grin, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in our lives, filled with endless opportunities and adventures. As we walked down the hallway with our hands still intertwined, I realized how much I was enjoying this experience. With each step, I felt the warmth of our connection and knew it was only the start of something extraordinary. As we turned a corner, the sound of our laughter echoed through the halls. I was thrilled to start a journey filled with joy, bonding with others, and falling in love. After she left and the doors closed behind her, I knew that this particular moment would always hold a unique and meaningful place in my heart. The excitement of the elevator ride, a moment of boldness and passion, would lead to so much more, etched into our memories forever.